Press this. Are we recording? Not too hot on level. Okay, excellent. So welcome everyone. Thank you so very much for coming. I am Will Berard, a software engineer. So I'm going to point out to my post-nominal letters. The MSc and the Diplôme d'ingénieur are computer science and software engineering, a member of the British Computer Society. I'm also a computer science teacher, hence PGC, a member of the Charter College of Teaching, and I am neurodivergent. This is the very first public airing of my research. I hope you are all as excited as I am. I want to stress up front, I could have fully forgotten, but it is a possibility. No synthetic text nor images are present in this presentation. In fact, it's not hosted on a PowerPoint, because I don't know if you particularly read the fine print of Microsoft as to what they're going to do with your words that are in the PowerPoint. So yeah, so this is the kind of stuff I care about. I'm sorry. And to set the tone, I would like to start with a poem. It's a poem I have known by heart since 2023 for reasons that will become obvious now. This is The Homework Machine by Shel Silverstein. And what I didn't know, it's only when preparing this talk that I noticed that he drew this illustration. And you will notice in the illustration that the homework is in fact made by hidden labor that is being exploited and oppressed by a gigantic, incomprehensible machine. This was published in 1981. We could speak of life imitating art. So here it goes. The homework machine, oh, the homework machine, most perfect contraption that's ever been seen. Just put in your homework and drop in a dime, snap on the switch, and in 10 seconds time your homework comes out quick and clean as can be. There it is, 9 plus 4, and the answer is 3. 3? Oh, me, I guess it isn't as perfect as I thought it would be. Hence the provisional title of my thesis, Rage Against the Homework Machine, a typology of higher education faculty attitudes towards student use of generative AI in assessment. This is going to be a Q methodological study. I will need to come back on this, but show of hand if you have heard of Q methodology. It is that bad, eh? Okay, well, that's going to swing both ways, right? I'm still not sure if it's a good idea, but I'm committed to it now. Okay, I mean, the outline, nothing surprising. After this introduction, bit of background drawing, of course, from the literature, the research question, method and methodology, conclusion, if we have time. Let's go. So for the background, I want to present to you several aspects of assessment in higher education. Aspects, or maybe aspirations, because there are qualities that assessment must have to meet the standards of quality set by the Quality Assurance Agency for standards in HE. For each of these aspects, I will then describe how they are affected when students use AI. Drawing all along, of course, on the literature. Here we go. First up, validity. Validity is how well the test measures what it claims to measure. This outdated definition has been widely acknowledged as reductive for at least 30 years because it's not so simple. Tests do not make claim. It is the testers, the people administrating the test, that do. So the tester makes a knowledge claim about the student's learning based on assessment outcomes. The validity of this claim is an epistemological matter, and I think everyone in this room knows how complex and often contested these can be. Still, the positivist view of validity as a property of the test, as the accuracy of the learning-o-meter, is adequate for the purpose of this talk, and of course adequate for the work of the QAA. So, add AI to this, what do you get? Well, AI, you could say, decreases the validity of assessment, because if the homework machine has done the work, you don't know anything about the student's learning. And it is irrelevant to considerations of validity whether using the homework machine represents cheating according to the institution or even the student, because the standards is different. Validity matters more than cheating. From Dawson and colleagues, a very cited, this is all coming out of Australia, this assessment stuff. Bood is in there as well. We'll see those them kind of coming over in my literature review. Now, AI could have rendered methods of coursework assessment, your at-home essay, invalid. But on the plus side, so the plus side, I'm voicing all of this in the conditional. If AI can help students that are not native to the English language, or neurodivergent one, then that's a tick for accessibility, and the QAA mandates assessment to be accessible, and the QAA likes boxes when they're being ticked. You could also argue that if with AI anyone can get custom, responsive, adapting support, not just those who can afford a human tutor, then AI increases assessment equity, which of course the QAA also want assessment to have. students, when they are surveyed, consistently name saving time, although it's not the first reason now. This is the one I didn't put the key. The blue is 2025, the green is 2026. So saving time has just gone down to second place, but the main reason for using AI is easing their workload. So student use of AI improves assessment manageability. And this is very important vis-a-vis what you were saying earlier on, Andrea, right? Because the type of students you were talking about, they suffer from their workload because they have worked or carrying responsibility, which tends, of course, to be more likely the less privileged the student is. So if AI can help these students, that's another case that AI makes assessment more equitable, this time through time savings, right? Snap on the switch and in 10 seconds time, your homework comes out quick and clean as can be. Now, is that a good thing, though? Anyway, whilst the workload effects are undeniable, the arguments for accessibility and equity run pretty thin, considering they are predicated on access to models and who's got the pro subscription, etc., right? That it's himself a significant source of inequity. Okay, authenticity, this is neoliberal newspeak, right? Authenticity for assessment in that context, it means when assessment mimics the way the knowledge and skills are expressed in the real world, meaning really the world of work. So placements, it needs to be assessed, and that would be authentic assessment. You can also think of the production of artifacts that are typical of knowledge work, say a business plan, or of the creative industry, say a 30-second podcast ad. UKHE has seen a big push for authentic assessment in the last 2 decades, and when we ask students about them, students prefer authentic modes of assessment over traditional ones. Yet, this push has not been without its critics. Some of the same names are there as well. Beyond the questionable equivalence that authenticity in assessment makes between the workplace and the real world, authenticity can also harm and sacrifice other aspects I've mentioned today, because the incentive structure of the world of work will tend to prioritize product over process. That doesn't really sound like the kind of values of education where we want some learning and some process to happen. So validity is threatened. Placement assessment, they can only be as equitable and accessible as the placement site themselves. It's a whole trade-off, and it doesn't seem that it's particularly worth it. So even before AI got into the mix, there was a lot of critique of the ASCEND, the authentic assessment movement. After AI, well, if all future knowledge of work, if is to be assisted, forgive me, is to be augmented, assist, we don't replace, we augment. Yeah. So if it is all augmented by AI for the sake of productivity gains, a notion that is increasingly disputed by the evidence, those two sources are an MIT report on the state of AI in business, finding that 95% of American companies investing in AI have yet to see any return on investment. The second one is the report on a pilot of Microsoft Copilot, a Copilot Square in the Department of Trade in the UK that find, well, small time savings but no productivity gains. Is it all worth it? But still, if AI is ever in the world of work, then an AI-assisted slop assessment is an assessment, right? It's an AI-assisted assessment is authentic. Now, my two students, like they were doing the business plan and the podcast advert, it's debatable whether they even have already the substantive skill to critically evaluate and transform the output, which is meant to be the core AI skill, and even that's the skill that they may not have developed either. So they might not learn much. They could produce something, but they're not going to learn much. We're back to the idea of, is education something that is purely utilitarian and instrumental, or is it like a sort of knowledge and personal development purpose? Now, the aspect of assessment about how much we learn in assessment, the degree to which learning happens in assessment, is confusingly called sustainability. Now, in broad terms, sustainability is about doing things today without firing a bullet that will hit our foot tomorrow or the day after. Evidence seems to indicate that our species is not very good at this. Now, environmental sustainability is probably what you are thinking about right now. This is now when you hear the word, you're thinking the green kind. On this front, the harms of AI are well documented, but also there are growing concerns among students themselves, right? This year it had bumped up to 4th place. It's good that the first one has decreased. It's bad that the middle two have decreased, because although they tend to can be equal. Well, now I'm going to have to bracket this in my work, but I think we need to all acknowledge that nothing AI augmented could be sustainable unless AI itself is. Or maybe until. Now, financial sustainability, AI is obviously not financially sustainable. OpenAI loses $5 for every buck they make. So when the bubble contracts, the availability of the tool will contract as well. unless universities provide access to students, which they should absolutely do, but on their own terms, because otherwise they're going to have a licensing deal and be captured for rent extraction by big American tech company, which is why it is indispensable that they run their own model on their own infrastructure, or at least infrastructure they control, so they can have also visibility over the energy expense. I will be making this point to the Senate and Council of the university in 2 weeks' time. I'm on a panel at their away day. Their away day is in Grove House, which doesn't sound very far away. They should call it a far day. Anyway, back to assessment. Sustainable assessment means assessments that enables lifelong learning in a learning society. In practice, it's assessment as learning, an assessment that itself develops skills in the learner and teaches her how to learn in the future. Now, on that front, we have evidence that AI assistance harms performance. We don't know about learning. All research in universities can measure its performance. So and the performance actually becomes worse than pre-intervention. And this effect manifests with after only 10 minutes of AI assistance exposure. It harms in particular persistence in the learner because AI will never refuse to help. I have actually done this with my year 7 in my training year, and it's amazing how quickly learners will learn helplessness because you're helping them too much, and it's kind of ironic when they're learning helplessness from the teacher. Now, the research question, I had to try and capture the complexity of the tensions, and I believe they are felt most, arguably, by the educators in higher education, the center of it. I wanted to really foreground them because they're forgotten in the literature. This is the most cited literature review on AI in HE. It predates ChatGPT, but I want to hear from my fellow educators, hence the research question. What distinct stances do higher education faculty hold about student use of generative AI in assessment? There are some sub-questions that are very provisional, but you can see the priorities and trade-off behind those assessment values, what possible response could be happening, or at least we're thinking about and endorsing with the stance, and then differences in academic disciplines or relationships to training placement program like nursing and teaching, and I don't know, can't remember what it stands for, but it's PRS, professional standards. Someone needs to decide what the teacher training university do, how that works in placement. Now, such a new topic calls for an exploratory approach and mixed methods. We've seen that do that very well with their exploratory sequential design. So it's a qualitative phase whose results help design an instrument or perhaps an experiment, quasi-experiment, in a quantitative phase whose results themselves after analysis inform a deeper qualitative phase, typically of semi-structured interview. Now, that wasn't really good enough for me for several reasons. I wanted to train myself in spicier quant than the descriptive statistic you would be doing with the middle bit that's typically a survey. So, I'm also doing a degree, and I'm choosing what I'm teaching myself, right? And there's going to be some applied mathematics. Now, and all of these designs are relatively recent, right? This is 2004. The time has come. And I really don't know if I get on board with the underlying philosophy. Pragmatism for me is like, well, we decided not to think too much about philosophy and let's actually do things, which is very good to get action thing in the real world. But 2/3 of the acronym PhD are PH, and that stands for philosophy. And I like philosophy. So in 2004, their time had come. But I will tell you something. How about 1953? Because the framework defined by William Stevenson in 1953 looks like this. It looks familiar, but under the hood it's completely different, and I don't have the time to explain the mechanics of how it's different, but I'm going to give you a picture of the context of this 1950 book in terms of the epistemological thinking of the time. That book is almost 10 years before Thomas Kuhn's The Structure of Scientific Revolution, which coins the term paradigm. It's 13 years before Berger and Luckman's work on social constructionism. So Stevenson couldn't have been a social constructivist working in a qualitative paradigm because he didn't have the words, even if he wanted to. If you're intrigued, but don't have much time. But I've chosen this because I find it much more philosophically legitimate to mix with the qualitative, and also it structurally minimizes the possible influence of my positionality, because you've seen it to be quite critical of AI. Now, I'm going to enrich this with strengthening the last phase with some thicker description of the results. But let's very quickly kind of move on in conclusion. We're pressed for time. I want to leave some time for questions, but just to make the case, I hope to be making, potentially, original contribution to knowledge, first, substantively, with implication for practice in institutional governance, policy, and professional development. I'd like to stress that governance and policy is not the same, in that at Roehampton, for instance, we have AI policy, we don't really have AI governance. Also a point I will be making to the Senate. Continued of the potential original contribution to data. Methodologically, what's cool about Q methodology, it is so rare that if you apply it to any topic, chances are you're the first to do that, and therefore you immediately can, it's a demonstration of Q as a valid method for the research topic. And it can possibly inform future survey instrument design if we want to run those things on a larger sample for statistical generalizability. But also, I might be deluding myself, but I'm not abandoning the hope of making a philosophical contribution to a body of knowledge by a better understanding of Q's epistemology of operant subjectivity as social constructionist. I don't have time to ask me about the philosophy at the break. Please ask me about my weird method. I also think that it's a much more defensible mix of methods that are not like oil and water, which I also hope can anchor the claims made in critical AI or critical edtech studies in quantitative findings that might give them more credibility amongst the public we're trying to convince. And of course, this is like the most philosophical. I think there may be an argument to be made for the compatibility of the epistemology of Q with the analytical idealism of, say, Kastrup is the most recent example. He is a double PhD, one in computer science, one in philosophy, by the way, Dutch philosopher. Now, conclusion, the AI moment is not happening in a vacuum. I mean, the only vacuum in which the moment is happening is the regulatory one. I'm going to, I don't know, time? Yeah, 17, I don't know. The problem with all research at this level, when the one where AI is used, is that it completely obviates how AI is made and sold. The capture and extraction mechanism and accumulation of power by very few actors. The idea that AI can help if you use it wisely, it can harm if you're not careful. This idea, even if it were to be true and operationalizable as practice, it still completely ignores the broader picture. So when Miles in one of this talk likens AI in ed to a pharmacon, a medicine, it could be poison, it could be medicine, where the difference between medicine and poison is the dose and wisdom of administration, is not wrong in general, but I think it's really right on the last syllable, because AI is definitely a con. We have these two books at the library. They're not technical, they're accessible, they speak to the broader context and education. Please, 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 if you want to understand what is at stake, not just in university, but across the whole of human society, have a look. My podcasting colleague, Charles Miller, who's a historian, when I told him I'm researching generative AI in higher education assessment, and he said, oh, that's like researching the structural integrity of still-hulled ship on the maiden voyage of the Starline Titanic. And I thought he was right, but now I realize I'm actually researching, oh, can we use little chips of the iceberg to cool our drinks? And why is the deck tilting? No, so this is what's happening here. Like, we are kind of like presuming that this technology will stay in the current shape and trying to work from this to find knowledge related to this shape of the technology, completely neglecting that the boat is sinking and we don't have long to act. I wish I could finish on a more upbeat note, but I won't.
Thank you. And I love that, Will.